Welcome back everybody to Nain Shorts. As you can see, I'm actually wearing shorts. Ha ha ha! Okay, not bad. That was more of a... Anyway, welcome back. To continue on our conversation from last week, I thought there was a point that we could have emphasized more, and I'd like to emphasize now in this particular video, is the idea of sensitivity. What are your feelings? No, I'm kidding. It's more along the lines of what are you feeling? In other words, one of the five senses, your sense of touch. Usually we use our hands to do everything, so we know very well when we pick something up if it's cold, if it's hot, or even the weight of it. Because we've already experienced it, our bodies remember that, but it's all the sensation that goes on in our body that isn't just limited to our hands. Our skin also feels the sensitivity. So how does that relate into what we do in the martial arts? Well, there are such a thing as sensitivity exercises, and we'll talk more about that later. But what are they for? What are they really there to teach you? In everyday life, we go through experiences. I don't know about you, but I've had these moments where I'm expecting something, like something is thrown at me and I expect it to be heavier, so I brace and I'm ready to catch it, or I'm ready to pick something up that I think is heavy and it turns out to be really light and I feel really strong at that time. Or reverse, I think it's really light and I go to pick it up or catch it and then I stumble. That's me receiving the force of something falling or fighting the force of gravity when it's on the ground. Now, this sensitivity can be translated into the martial arts in the sense that the force isn't necessarily created by gravity or the weight of something, but what people generate, whether it's a punch or a kick. As a matter of fact, if we go back to the last video that we had where Rick demonstrated how he was able to get into an arm bar, we talked about the mechanical aspects of it, of extending the arm and the points of contact. But if you look back at the video, you can see that Rick isn't looking at me. He's feeling what it is that he needs because he understands that aspect of it already, that he's using his sense of touch to get what he needs. He comes in close to me, and because I'm trying to punch him, I need space to continue doing that. So one of two things would naturally happen. Either I'm going to push him out of the way, or I'm going to move back to give myself the space so I can keep punching. But as that is happening, you can see Rick's hands grab the things that he needs. So the moment I go to push him out of the way, he has the extension we were talking about and he can utilize the mechanics. Now that is sensitivity. That is what is required for him to apply what he knows mechanically, because at that close range his eyes were useless to him. So he needed to know, okay, I put pressure on him, now he needs to do something, and what I did gave him everything that he needed to do. But he couldn't see it coming. He had to feel it. He had to use his sensitivity. And it's not limited, again, to just the hands. The rest of the body has to be involved. In the Bladed Mind, we start off our students constantly, and I say this constantly, telling them how to relax, or better yet, to relax. And you can't really teach. Each person has to figure that out for their own body types. We tell the students, shoulder width, bend the knees slightly like you're straddling, stay upright, but be as relaxed as you possibly can, and more importantly, breathe. Breathe. At the beginning, what we're trying to get the students to understand is the sensitivity of their own body. When I do this, do I feel the stretch in my arm with our number one chamber? When I drop, do I feel the weight of my hand coming down? If I don't, it means I'm too stiff and I'm using my muscles to hold myself up. We want the students to be as relaxed as possible because that makes you fluid. But more importantly, it allows your brain to pick things up that you normally wouldn't if you're moving fast or stiff. In a lot of cases, people do both. So we constantly repeat to the students, relax. Later on, they realize that as they're relaxed, they can generate more force. And again, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But what this boils down to is that our brain is constantly getting information from our five senses. Touch is one of the biggest ones, because you can see something and you think, oh, I can do that. But then you try to do it, and what happens? It totally falls apart. But then you feel it, or it gets done to you, in reference to martial arts, because I've been in Uki for a long time, and I learn a lot when something gets done to me. And it isn't visual. Everything's happening in such a way where I can't look at every little piece that's going on, but I feel it. And because I feel it, I can remember it better, and then I can duplicate it better. And then I can develop it even more, but for me. Traditional martial arts have big stances, which are great for developing strength and balance. Those things come with time, though. Any kind of exercise to see real results takes repetition and takes time. In the Bladed Mind, we ask the students, use what you already have. We're not trying to develop stronger legs. We're trying to develop the understanding to use the strength they have now so they can survive a violent attack. There are different ways that we can then explore the idea of sensitivity. In my opinion, any exercise that you have with a partner can be a sensitivity drill if that is your focus. But even before that, we do have a specific exercise where we start exploring the idea of sensitivity, feeling the push and pull between you and an opponent. Mind you, this is at the point where the student has already spent enough time going through their individual exercises to feel at what point does that hit happen? At what point can I put a little extra emphasis on that movement to create greater force, but automatically go back to relax? That's why we don't start hitting hard at the beginning. We just want them to move freely so that it's ingrained into their body, that they know, and their mind, that they know that they have to stay relaxed. Then we can add on later, but automatically they'll go back to being relaxed because that's what they were geared to do, and they understand the significance behind being relaxed and the benefits that come along with movement when you're not completely tense and doing this all the time. So, what is this exercise that we use? Rick, would you mind joining me for a moment? So Rick and I are going to demonstrate an exercise. I don't know its actual name. Would you have another name?
It's a Wing Chun.
It's a Wing Chun exercise?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know what they call it. I mean, it's part of sticky hand stuff, but we use it to develop sensitivity. So
that's wonderful. So we don't know the specific name. We do use it because it is very beneficial. And again, it's not the only one. Your system probably has some variation of this. And what we're going to do is that we're going to join our dominant hands, the back of our hands, to one another. And the initial idea is going to be to maintain that contact as we move the hands in a circular motion. Now, the reason why a circular motion is that it engages all the joints involved in the upper body. Because at the beginning, we do this exercise stagnant. Our feet are planted. We haven't added that dynamic just yet. But we want, again, the students to understand the push and pull that happens. And then we vary. One gives more, one gives less, and we see how the response happens naturally. Can the student maintain that level of comfort and fluidity by maintaining the rest of their body relaxed? So this is what it looks like from this end. So we connect, and then one of us starts moving. And again, we stay as relaxed as possible so we can feel, oh, he's pushing, okay, I need to redirect. All right, now I'm pushing. Oh, he got closer to me. I had to move my shoulder in order for him not to touch, so we can maintain the movement of this exercise. Then at one point I give him more. Oh, he has to react to what's going on. But he's not seeing this. We're not using our eyes. We need to feel what is happening. Otherwise, we're just looking for something specific that may never come. There. I move this way. Oh. Eventually, you start moving and adding more of a dynamic to this exercise. And eventually, you start realizing at what point... He is my instructor after all. At what point can you use that energy that you're feeling coming towards you and the energy that you're putting out to the best of its ability so you can get the upper hand in a situation?
And one of the things that I could bring up is that when you feel the force coming towards you, because now you're allowing your body to feel the energy or the sensitivity of it all, that you can then have a jerk motion and it sends the other guy flying because he's throwing so much pressure against
that. Now he has no resistance, and
right.
That's what happens because force can only be initiated in one direction at
right.
a time, which means it can only be received in one direction at a time. Now, one of two things can happen. You throw something and we meet, and I'm trying to meet force with force. Now, if I'm stronger, sure, that may be beneficial, but you're more knowledgeable about your mechanics and the energy that's being received and thrown out.
Right.
Therefore, I'll probably be on the losing end of that.
If just a point of reference, what just happened here when we both stuck our hand out. I laid all my weight to my back leg. He was trying to bring his forward. So when we clashed here, I wasn't going to go anywhere. He was actually hurting himself.
Yes.
More than anything else. Because I understand that sensitivity of weight distribution and understanding that when the force is coming, rather than trying to meet it,
right,
I kind of absorb it down here.
And you press into it.
And I press into it that I don't feel that, and to you, you're going into a wall.
And on my end, because I'm moving forward, my weight is on my front leg. But the moment I make contact and I realize I can't go anywhere, I do the very same thing that he just did in receiving, and I drop into my weight.
Right.
Which allows me then to move to something else.
Now, if we were to do that again, then I can do that.
That's the second piece that's going to happen.
Right.
You're either going to meet force with force, which, again,
usually
sometimes
a bad idea.
It's useful, but for the most part it isn't, because you're going to take the brunt of that. And if you can't put more behind it, you're going to always be on the losing end of it. And you don't know how much force is coming at you until you make contact. So for us, it makes more sense to, again, stay relaxed, work on your sensitivity, and move out of the way.
When necessary.
When necessary.
Yeah.
The idea of moving out of the way isn't necessarily just stepping back and letting it pass through. Like Rick just did. He took my hand and he moved it out of the way. But look, he still absorbed everything. He's still flexible. And what does that do to me? My force is going again in one direction. And if I'm committed to that, it's going to keep going until it is stopped either by me or by my opponent. He's not stopping it.
Close line. WWE.
Until he gets to me in the close line. And this is how then the idea of sensitivity can start being developed. And again, it's not just seen in...
Can I go now?
No, I still want you for a little bit more. Because there are other exercises that, again, if we do the hubat lubat.
Yeah.
Okay? This is just a basic punching idea, but the sensitivity of, it's coming, the energy's still moving here. My hand is going across his forearm to place where it needs to be. I'm feeling all of this happen. It's not just my hand, now I'm using my forearm to do it. From here, I grab his hand and I throw my punch. We don't even have to look at this point, and we understand where all the pieces are, which is what Rick used last week to get me into an armbar. He understood where it was without having to look, and he took advantage of that. Now, we don't start with empty hands though in the bladed mud.
No.
So where do we really start seeing this idea of sensitivity? And that's with sticks.
He's good.
Here you go, young man. Oh, wait, no. This one's
Thank you.
all right. So our basic 1 in 11 exercise with a partner is here. And again, we tell them to be relaxed, not to put any power behind it. But what you start realizing is that when you make contact, there is a lot of energy being transferred from one to the other. So instinctually, you start tensing up at the point of contact. But if you're doing the things that you're supposed to, you go back to being relaxed. And you can generate more force. Eventually, I don't want to meet force with force anymore because he hits a lot harder than I do. So I'm going to use the sensitivity of knowing when that impact is going to happen, and I redirect my energy to get the better of that situation. It's no longer me meeting force with force and understanding that we've gone past that idea already at this point of our training. Now, I don't even have to meet his force. If we go back to 1 and 11...
Now, if you folks noticed, there was still a clanging of sticks.
It was my puño.
Right. But the other part of that, just as a point of reference for everybody,
Yes.
that when we do get here, and we're going to go slow, right? Slow motion, it's here. The moment I feel that little, even just a slightest touch, I can go ahead, because what's going on is, as I'm moving mine out of the way, his energy, because it made contact, is still going to force him that way, right? His flow is going to keep going. So here, I've already blocked myself,
So you're
and I can come in, right? So if we're doing this in regular speed, there's that little clash that says, oh, redirect now, because his energy throws him somewhere else, right? So we're here, I can just come in.
Yes. And again, we spend so much time being aware of this idea that eventually, I think if we were to scientifically break this down and put some sort of measuring tool between the two sticks, there's a small micron of actual contact that happens before he actually moves, which means he hasn't even taken, 20% of the energy that I put into it? If that, probably a lot less. That's conservative. But it's probably like 2% of the energy, and as soon as he feels that coming, he's already moving into another direction. Now imagine if you can do that every time with your entire body. Now somebody tries to punch you, somebody tries to grab you, not only will you sense it and start moving before it becomes detrimental to you, because you spent the time figuring out the mechanics behind it, your responses are going to be more sound to that situation, and instinctually you're going to get the better of it, because in a fight you will not have the time to think. The thinking needs to happen while you're training, while you're doing your drills, and while you're having your lessons.
Right.
If it doesn't happen then you're not feeding the brain the information it will use later on to respond with instinct.
Correct.
All right. That was my idea. Oh no, we're good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Round of applause for Rick. He was a great guy.
Did he die?
Was he might die after this. I don't know. But that's my idea of sensitivity, and where I think we should really concentrate our ideas, because along with the sensitivity that we develop to feel where we are, where we're balanced, where we're strong, and when we're weak, it also gives us a sense of when we're angry, when we're stressed, when we're frustrated over something that has nothing to do with training, but it shows up in training because that stress, that cortisol release will make you tense. Cortisol is an idea that happens, or it's not an idea, it's a chemical that's released naturally for the sense of survival. It allows your bigger muscles to do one of two things, either run or fight. But you lose a lot of the dexterity, you lose a lot of the actual mental power, because it's so focused on just that physicality of things. And people nowadays are stressed over a lot of different things. So imagine you don't understand your triggers. You've been training for years, and all of a sudden you get into an altercation and you lash out at somebody and you hurt them. Hurt them bad enough that now you're in jail or worse. This is the sensitivity where it gets to the point where you now can access and understand where you are emotionally, so you can keep yourself in check at all times. This is the next level of sensitivity. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me. I had a lot of fun here on Nain Short, a colleague conversation presentation, and I will see you guys next week. Have a great day. 1, 2, 3, cut!